Computer. Okay, it's recording. Bernie, hi.
Hey, Becca, what's going on?
We're going to get a lot of those Rebecca giggles today where
Gosh.
I'm like,
Yeah, right. This is a first for us. We're zooming.
well,
Like,
Zoom is not
welcome.
Zoom is not first for us. I mean, that's sort of been well, for anyone. I think if you're talking to anybody in 2020, you've been on a Zoom.
Sure, sure. As far as us talking and using this platform, definitely new. Yeah, I'm familiar with Zoom, but this is different for body kindness. I'm digging it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's what's funny. So, if you're tuning in through the podcast, thank you for being a podcast subscriber and listener. We love you. You already know that, like, this is, I feel like our fifth year. I don't know. It's like 160 episodes that we've been doing, and we have always recorded through Skype, but you and I are always on video because we like to see each other and chat and catch up because we're good friends. And
Yeah.
and then I would put the edited podcasts on YouTube. And I saw other podcasters were going on YouTube, and I always wanted to do stuff on YouTube. But what struck me to kind of say, okay, that's it. Well, first of all, we've talked about it and we've all said, nah, we don't want to get ready.
Pretty much.
Like, we talk on the weekend mornings around kids screaming and crying and other work shenanigans. So we're never going to have a set time, that, and we don't know if we can get ready. Those were at least my reservations. Just I don't know that. So I have like lip gloss and a little bit of concealer and like a touch of mascara, but that's it. That's all. That's all I'm
Nice,
doing.
nice. That's definitely more. That's definitely more than I have on this morning. What's neat about this, right, is everybody that is now viewing as well as listening has the opportunity to see uh, this quarantine beard that I've been growing out since March. So it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna ride this thing out to the end of the year, and we'll see what happens. But
Can
it's
you like
definitely
show
definitely
it?
down there.
What is the
Oh
length?
yeah, I
Yes.
think I'm gonna decorate it for the holidays. It is like down here, like it extends my face. It's pretty crazy, but
it's
it's nearing its end here.
it's
But yes,
also
I
a
welcome
little
everybody to hop on. Oh, it's super great. It's super
salt and
great.
pepper, salt and pepper.
Sure,
I think it's
sure, why
very
not?
sexy. It's
Dale,
very
thanks. You know what's crazy about it is I have no gray up here, and I
uh-huh.
have like all gray here. So definitely have
Yeah.
to hop on and check that out. But I'm excited about this, because we talk about um, always really wanting to connect. And I think that this is a great way to do it.
Hmm.
I know that I'm excited to kind of step out. I know if you were to have asked me when we started this 5 years ago now, um, wow, that's crazy. If you would have asked me, hey, let's hop on video, there's no way I would have done it. And I think
Hmm.
that through a lot of our conversations, a lot of the unpacking that I've done, gosh, even our last interview with Aubrey,
Hmm.
um, this is where I need to be. This is what I feel comfortable doing. And I want to show up for myself first and foremost, and
Yeah.
definitely for all of our, listeners and now viewers. Like
Yeah.
this is good.
Yeah. Well, what ended up make me finally say, okay, that's it, was when um I got a YouTube comment and it's like, what? That's it? Just your audio podcast? I thought there'd be video. And I have no idea. Maybe it was just a troll, but I was like, oh, maybe actually this is not as impossible as I'm thinking, or maybe it would be fun for some people to see us interact. Or I mean, we were already doing it anyway. So it's just an issue of, I don't know, getting over that little hump, that mental block of, oh, wait a minute, I want to be in my ratty "Don't Bug Me" t-shirt with the
Oh,
holes in
that's
it.
still gonna happen. Like if you're telling me I have to look presentable every time we do this, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm signed up to give you,
Yeah.
the real Bernie, the unshaven, and the rolling out of bed having just been woken up by my 1-year-old's look. So
Well, we can always plan a little pajama party or something. We'll
there we
see. We'll
go.
see.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely in cozy. I'm braless, so that's something.
As am I. So it's great.
And it's so funny when you talk about this is where I need to be, which is a perfect segue to helping people who are new to us to get to know you better. But it's like, Bernie, this should be your bag. You've been on television before.
Oh gosh, a lifetime ago. But yeah, I mean, for those that are new, my name's Bernie Salazar. I was on a weight loss TV show a long, long, long time ago, and as you can, see if you've tuned in, Rebecca isn't a huge fan, but I am thankful for that experience, and I do say that out loud just because it really opened my world up to how unfortunately society views and treats people in big bodies. And it took me a really long time to admit to myself first and foremost that I was not and am not broken.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with me. And as a matter of fact, I am in the right body for who I am, and it does amazing things. And for having had that experience and for having contributed to what we know is unhealthy behavior
Mm-hmm.
for so many Americans that try to replicate it, I am happy to be here and
Mm-hmm.
to offer what I truly learned as a result of that experience, which is learning to love yourself, and the way to do that and to accept yourself. And the only way that's really going to make that happen is through kindness and self-acceptance first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's something called post-traumatic growth. And you know, well, first of all, let me take back one step further and say, if anyone really wants to get to know you, the Learn and Grow series, which we'll put in the show notes, is really the best place to dive in, especially. I guess I haven't even told people what body kindness is yet, but when I do my intros, we'll go back and do that. We are, when we flicked on the record, I said, Bernie, let's just wing it, which is famously Rebecca words. So this is why you're going to have to hear it as it all comes out. But I will put Learn and Grow in the show notes. And what you'll get there is conversations with just Bernie and myself, where they were actually about 3 years apart. So what you get is a check-in on where Bernie is after 3 years of practicing body kindness. And then we do the replay of our original chat. And so you do get it a little bit backwards, so sort of like that reverse chronological order, but it's important for us to do it that way, because when you hear the original conversations, you hear a different Bernie, you hear someone struggling, you hear someone with 1 foot in diet culture and 1 foot out because he didn't even know what body kindness was. And so I personally feel it's better to hear it that way, because if you're tuning in, you're at your rock bottom. We have listeners who are in the middle of an eating disorder and who are trying to recover. And if they heard what you were talking about first, that could be very, scary or, harmful. And so it's kind of like, if you listen to the progress and reflections first, then you could stop if that was enough for you. Or if you're really curious about connecting with the version of Bernie that might be closer to where you are, if you're at the very beginning, you might find a sense of relief and that I'm not alone, I'm not the only one. And so that is a wonderful, wonderful series and all types of different themes. It's really fascinating because there was this 6-year-long Biggest Loser study that came out while we were podcasting, and I read it in the journal, and then I saw it in the New York Times, and I was like, we got a podcast on this now. And so you hear me explaining the harm to your body, which was like a freight train hit you. And then I just absolutely love your loser letter, where the show was still on. And so you were writing to contestants to try to warn them, but you were still very much doing your trauma healing, like trauma from the show and body stuff. And then there's the episode where it was like my letter to my body that I did when I was having my pivot, sort of sharing the pivot because the book was coming out and I wanted to publicly share a little bit more about my personal suffering and what I was offering the world with Body Kindness. And you still weren't ready because it was 3 years later when you did your version, which was this awesome like poetry slam rap thing, but it was all body healing stuff. So all of those super, super great. I mean, honestly, I would tell any new listener, go through those and share those if you're doing your own work or you know someone who is, because it's like true story. It's lived experience and it's different perspectives, and it's the helper who's struggling and who has seen sort of the light at the end of the tunnel and has, found something. And then you,
Well, I think more important, it's not
too.
even seeing the light, Rebecca. It's actually acknowledging that there can be and there is light there if you just keep moving forward. Because honestly, when we started off, I didn't believe that there was light at the end of the tunnel. So that's where I started. Was just I remember you reaching out and kind of saying, hey, let's do this podcast. And I was just so empty and so drained that I just didn't even know if I had enough in me to even begin to unpack what I was feeling, which was, just a mass array of crazy feelings of, not feeling adequate in any way, especially when it came to, my body and I had, put almost all the weight back on that I lost on the show and was just viewing myself as a complete failure. And, how could I let this happen? I had been given this wonderful opportunity. And, that's what people tell you, right? That was the narrative I was receiving everywhere I turned, even from loved ones, oh, how are you? So again, it just kind of eats at you. And I'm glad that I reluctantly agreed. And I'm glad that
well, let's be real. You first said no. You were like, no, go away.
Well, yeah. I didn't say at what stage I reluctantly agreed. I didn't say how many times you had to ask me for me to just say fine. But I did reluctantly agree, and I'm also glad that I didn't shut off after one or two talks. So anybody that's tuning in and watching us or listening to the podcast, yeah, I encourage you to give it a couple listens before you make a decision as to whether or not this is for you.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue to just give some highlights about me and Body Kindness. And so let's see. I tried my first diet when I was 9. And it really was a weight loss diet. I tried it with a friend. And, there were several things that happened. I mean, I already wasn't getting enough to eat because I was poor. Like, we were on food stamps, so that's one of the fascinating things, because there's a lot of elitism in the world around food and everything like that. But diet culture does not discriminate based on your economic status or education or anything like that. But there was a time, I think it was middle school. But I collapsed in a gym class, right? Because I just had low blood sugar and I was running around. And so I didn't have healthcare. I didn't have a pediatrician. I can't really say if back then I could have been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but it was definitely chronic dieting, disordered eating. It was very directly related to being worthy and, accepted. How do I know I'm good enough? What's so interesting about it is that I also very deeply cared about health at that time. And I really do believe that I followed the dieting path mostly because I cared about my health and I wanted to live a really long time and have a great, awesome life, right? Like when you talked about you got on The Biggest Loser but you had a lot of crap in your life, but you also had a lot of good, fun things happen. And how you had mentioned with Aubrey, I wanted to see if life was better as a thin person, because that's what everybody told you. That was one of your big motivations. It wasn't all sadness that led you to The Biggest Loser. It wasn't all sadness that led me to dieting. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. No, that's a really good point.
Yeah. And so, anyway, and so on the exercise element, that was, I still look pretty fondly to the videos that I did, these free like videos on TV. Who was it? Gilad Janklowitz, Bodies in Motion. And I'm sure if I looked at some of that now, I'd be like, ugh. But he was on a beach in Jamaica and he's like, yeah, everybody, woo. He was happy. And I was not going on vacations anywhere. So I was like, this looks amazing. So it was piquing my curiosity about the world and travel. I had all this hope and I was having fun. And so what I really loved movement, it gave me something to do as this like bored kid, sort of like in high school. So I don't know. It was this weird thing. I would like go on and off diets. So my mom dieted, so I'd go on and off diets with her. It's a weird story to kind of tell, but I think it's very important to talk about. Yes, I was as young as 9 years old, and that's scary because I have an 8-year-old. So I just kind of like viscerally, I just can't fathom that. Anyway, what do I want to say? So I'm a dietitian and an exercise physiologist now, but I wasn't always a dietitian. I was a computer programmer. And, there's a million things that led down the path, but it was actually 9/11, a significant trauma in our society that led me to just say, listen, I really do want to be happy. I've always wanted to help people. And I really care about health, but it was like too late to be a doctor. I don't want to be a nurse, kind of running through the things. And I was like, I like exercise. I always did. And I liked food and nutrition. But it was like disease prevention and like, yeah, like weight management. And I was taught that in my nutrition program, and so when I was early as a dietitian, I was absolutely, I'm going to work with athletes because they're compliant. And I'm going to work with, people on, I called it healthy weight management because it was like, I knew enough. I was like, it's not diet, healthy lifestyle, right? That kind of stuff. And I was majorly still part of the problem, screwing it up. And I basically had a rock bottom, the way I characterize my rock bottom moment, there were 3 key things. I collapsed in a marathon. That was after I met you. I almost died. It was horrible. And I was doing South Beach. So stupid. And I was a dietitian and an exercise physiologist. None of that. You will see a lot of pros doing bad stuff because our credential does not really teach us to help people. It teaches us to help people diet and restrict and under fuel. I feel like I'm rambling.
Yeah,
anyway.
no. I mean, I'm just shaking my head because, what's significant about what you've shared is that we all in some way are affected by diet culture and the negative view that society has on weight and people in bigger bodies. And, I think that before my entire experience, I always thought, anybody who's in a small body, a thin body must have a better life, is leading a better life. They have no problems, no relationship issues, they have the best jobs, probably earning more. And, what I really learned over the course of our time together and just through unpacking a lot of the emotions and feelings and things that I went through was you have to just focus on yourself first. We all have different traumas that we've endured, whether they be family, so many different things that we need to really look at before we can, think that something outside of ourselves is going to make a difference in our own lives. And for me, that was what was the most powerful thing that came out of my experience and what I've gained from our conversations is just the only way to truly connect with yourself in a way that is healthy is to be kind to yourself. And I think, I was taught my entire life that something was wrong with me because I was in this larger body. Any other accomplishment that I had outside of the physical wasn't necessarily as noteworthy. And man, did I learn the hard way. got down to a weight in my head that I thought was supposed to make my world perfect. And it didn't. I found myself constantly in this, rat race of trying to maintain what I thought I was supposed to be enjoying. It was supposed to make my life that much better. And it was just made my life so much more stressful. Now you're listening to this, whether it's, audio or you're tuning in and you're thinking, well, what is he saying? Is he saying, let's not be healthy? Let's not care for our bodies? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the only way to truly care for your body in every way is to begin by being kind to yourself first and really tuning into yourself and having serious conversations about what your particular body needs. What does health look like to you? How does it fit into your life so that if you're missing an activity that you enjoy, I'm not going to say a workout because I hate when we put it in that context, but when you miss doing an activity that you like doing, you're not beating yourself up because now you think of yourself like I used to as this huge failure and this is just going to happen again and my life's just going to be horrible. It's funny that we're talking about this and this is the intro because I remember just this morning I was like, okay, I'm speaking with Rebecca. What am I going to say? And I just remember even this morning, just literally being like, you know what, you need to start off by just telling yourself again and to everybody who's watching that you're not broken. And that's lately I've been seeing a lot of past contestants, friends, okay, but also past contestants who, still post like before and after pics and look what I'm doing. And, part of me just needs to hop on and say, we were never broken before. We need to start connecting in a way that's real and to stop putting things out there that, add to this negative narrative that people in larger bodies are in some way not worthy.
Yeah. I always encourage you to use your voice. It's very powerful. And, sometimes people don't know, they don't know the harm intent is an impact. So if they are your friends, what I would recommend to do is get in touch, wish them well, let them know that you have some information and feedback that you'd like to offer them if they're open to it. And say, it has to do with social media and positive well-being and what we could do for, to truly be helpful to people. Because I do think there's a way to live your truth and own your story that may include weight loss long-term. And whether that was, body autonomy, right? Whether that was because you had a weight loss surgery, which is, I'm not recommending that. Let me just be super clear, but I do support body autonomy and that people can do whatever it is that they want. And the point is you don't know unless somebody's sharing what they did. And they also might be sharing from a part of them that, that needs to hold on to some essence of, because of this body change, therefore my life is better. And that would be a really generous assumption to say, I don't know that person's story or why they're doing it. And their story can be true and they can have information about how that story might be impacting people. And then they can decide for themselves, because they could be in a different place than you. They could hear your feedback and not care, which is really scary. That sometimes is what keeps people from saying something, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember, again, when this all started and you approached me and, we'd been friends for a while, I stayed listening because of our friendship. It wasn't necessarily because of the content that you were sharing. And I say that lovingly and respectfully because, we do get stuck in thinking that we understand completely what has been thrust upon us in the form of, feeling less than in a society that doesn't respect bodies, and doesn't treat them the same. And, right away, your first thing is, okay, it's something wrong with me. I need to change this.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know what she's talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, we can see you now. So it's not, you're, I know that you talked about living in a slightly larger body when you were, younger, but now, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that experience is different. So
Mm-hmm.
part of me was like, okay, well, Rebecca, I know you get it, and I know, you've studied this and dedicated your life to this, but you're not in a big body, And to me, that was
Right.
scary. It's like, okay, I get what, yeah, and don't get me
Easy for
wrong, like,
her to say. Easy for
absolutely.
her to say, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, but through our conversations, see, like through our conversations, I know that you were coming from a place of care and love. Like I knew
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
still, like how many times do we have parents or siblings or loved ones, come from a place of love and we still want to be like, forget you, like,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I'm all that to say I'm glad that, I remained open to what you were sharing. And um, through a lot of hard work, that's what I want to make sure I'm
Mm-hmm.
sharing with our viewers and our listeners. I've at least arrived at a place where I love myself in a way that I didn't before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's allowing me to
Mm-hmm.
have stronger relationships in my
Right.
life.
Right. And that really is the beauty and power behind body kindness. When so it is a philosophy for well-being. And it is a book, an audiobook, and there's an ebook too. And the book is a great place to get started if you've been on the diet and body shame roller coaster. I remember the day when I was in my office and just extremely distraught about what was I going to do to actually truly be helpful to people. Um, because I think I was mentioning like the three things, right? And one was me in the dieting and almost dying in a race. And the other one was in clients that I was helping, very similar. Some were also doing the marathon, and some were, larger body people doing a marathon. And pace doesn't matter, right? Your pace is the pace. And I was truly like trying to help them get enough fuel, but having pizza on a Friday night before a Saturday run would be very fearful for somebody because they felt so attached to that's not going to help me lose weight. And so I was struggling on how to support people. And, and I could just see that when you talk about that self-blame of failure, I was there to try to help them succeed, but I wasn't taking weight loss off the table. I would try to say, well, these habits are more important, but I wasn't stepping forward enough to confidently say, here's why we need to take weight loss off the table because it's damaging your mental health. And then the third thing was an event that happened with my mom that, you know, also was very, very traumatic. And it also led me to kind of follow through and deeply reflect on her chronic dieting and our relationship and her weight cycling. My mom lost and gained 100 pounds several times in her life. And it was very damaging to her body, to her mental health. I think she likely struggled with what we now know is binge eating disorder, but we didn't have healthcare, so not a diagnosis. And so much pain around that, again, all these things coming. And I was like, I'm not going to be part of that crew that recommends weight loss. I don't care what I have to give up, you know, um, and there is a lot to lose. People in the profession don't respect you if you reject weight loss. You lose
I
friends, you
was just
lose
going to
work
ask
opportunities.
how that went, because I know, having
Bad. It
known
went
you
bad.
before your shift. Yeah. Yeah. I just remember, really having done some work with you and meeting you, um, uh, prior to this, your new philosophy and your new take on this. And,
Mhm.
we were out there and we were talking about, hey, this is what you should do if you want to live healthier and lose weight.
Right.
And,
Right.
I
Because
mean,
weight loss was the gateway, right? Like we were like nurture principles, happy life after you lose weight. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes. And then when you called me up, you were like, hey, I've completely rethought my take on this, and this
mhm.
is what it is. And I was like, okay, all right, that's I mean,
Dummy.
because if you're hearing it for the first time, I was like, all right, you have your degree in this, but if that's the way you're going to do it, um, but yeah, no, I can't imagine that it went well, but I'm grateful that you had the guts and the
Mhm.
strength and the vision to know that it was being done wrong and that it
Yeah.
could be done so much better for everybody involved because I feel better than I ever have in so
Mhm.
many different ways. And what's nice about this is, we, through my experience with you, I've noticed how many allies we have and how
Mhm.
many beautiful, you know, people out there that are really calling this what it is, which is
Mhm.
wrong, and doing something about it. Like
Yes.
fat activists that are out there
Mhm.
making the world better for the little birdies out there, in the world that, up until now, we're being told that, um, they need to lose weight at a young age. I remember,
Mhm.
back, you talked about 9 years old. I knew I was living in a big body as early as 5, 6, because it was that, oh, baby fat, and oh, you'll get tall, and
Mhm.
you'll thin out.
Mhm.
I'm Latino. Like, there's no way I'm getting taller than what I am. I mean, let's be very honest.
Mhm.
So when that didn't happen, again, that led to another, like, oh gosh, now I can't even grow right.
Mm.
um, so all that to
I am
say,
bad. You learned I am
yeah,
bad.
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
That's trauma right there, right? That's
yeah.
as a growing kid, what you need to know is that you are good,
Yes, no,
and to get
absolutely, and
that feedback that you were wrong is just
right.
hurtful.
Right. Yeah, very hurtful. And I remember, even though I was in a bigger body, I did everything in my power to shrink and
Mhm.
to appear small and navigate the world small.
Mhm.
And that has a tremendous impact on anybody, let alone a child, as they're
Mhm.
trying to navigate what it means to grow into themselves and
Mhm.
to find value in themselves outside of just the physical.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad that you pivoted. I'm glad that we're having these conversations, and I'm glad that I've put in the work. And
Mhm.
I keep saying that, but this is again we're literally getting ready to celebrate year 5, and I
Yeah.
finally feel like I can breathe and share this in a way that makes sense for me and
Yeah.
is as authentic as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Well, I was hitting the rock bottom and that, what do I do? That was in 2007. Um, and it took me a while. The first thing that I wanted to do was to examine, well, what is out there and how can I just take weight out of it? Um, and for a while, I was doing it in my practice, and letting body kindness evolve. And, as it's the end of 2020 and heading into 2021, I can definitely say there are a lot more helping professionals who are willing to be in an anti-diet space, and that's amazing. Um, and dietitians, and which is great. And when I was, working on when I was in my office, and literally I just wrote down on a piece of paper, I was thinking of like, what's the client question? What was my question? And there was a lot of like reflective thoughts. It wasn't just this office moment, but that was the moment when my hand went like this. And ultimately the question was, what do I do if I care about my health, but never want to diet again? And it was from there where I, really thought about it. I had been trained in intuitive eating. I think intuitive eating is wonderful. But I already knew from years of counseling. So this would be around early 2014. So that's 7 years of continuing to do counseling, studying, I did a lot of studying in positive psychology. I became certified as an anxiety treatment professional. I was studying trauma to be a certified trauma-informed professional, and just taking it in, making sense of it, trying to see, well, what would be this version of it that you could apply to people who were, struggle with body image, struggle with, chronic dieting, or thinking that weight loss is the answer, to help support that question.
Mhm.
And one of the things that struck me deeply was that people don't really think in siloed ways. Like, oh, if I just heal my relationship with food, right, intuitive eating, everything will be fine. Well, but things intersect and overlap. And for many people, you can't start with food, right? And so I knew that intuitive eating was great. I wanted to embrace intuitive eating, but body kindness was going to be different. It was going to be a philosophy for well-being. I knew, like, fundamentally, that what was broken is the definition of health, and that we needed to have the baseline mental health first. That mental and physical health work together to form health. And that also that how we could access sort of our thoughts about the best version of our health. One of the things that nutrition training, and especially where I went at University of the District of Columbia, there was a pretty strong focus on social determinants of health and economic disparities for chronic diseases. And that was my lived experience, but then also in my education. So I knew that I didn't want to be that sort of what I was seeing come out in Goop and all that elitism. And yep, I am definitely thin and white and have economic privilege. And so it was like using this place of, how do I help individuals, right, reframe and redefine what health means to them? But I also knew I wanted the philosophy to embrace this idea that it's not just about individual well-being or even my family, but collective well-being. And it came through what I was studying in mindfulness and meditation. I always kind of felt like an outsider because I felt like I couldn't really relax, but that I could tell that it helped me. Anyway, there were just pieces after pieces after pieces kind of coming together. And I felt a part of me, right, IFS, which is one of the psychology realms that I studied that became part of the body kindness. A part of me was like, oh, people are going to want you to stay in your lane of food and exercise. And I was like, well, but I don't think so. I don't think that that's how humans are. It hasn't been my experience of who's coming into the office. It really was about people wanting a better life, a better well-being, and wanting to cope with past experiences, wanting to cope with society and culture, and their inner child, right? Wanting to know, am I good and how do I know? And needing to take things step by step by step. And I will waste the whole podcast going into the weeds of the philosophy. So I'm just going to cut myself off, but say that what makes body kindness so special and different is that it is a individual practice where you have a very specific goal. And you mentioned it several times, be kind to yourself, be good to yourself. The very specific goal of the body kindness practice is to find and connect to your inner caregiver, right? Your curious and compassionate part that does not judge. It's this idea, right, of you in the present moment, this idea of what do you think it means to be good to yourself, so that you can be good to yourself in that present moment, no matter what in the world is happening, right, to make you spiral down, right, and feel closed off and disconnected. How can you be good to yourself in that moment, right? It might be that breath of like, it's okay. In psychology, we would call that emotion regulation, something to ground yourself and that's where the connect pillar came from. There's 3 pillars, and that was the connect pillar. Connect to yourself. And then also connecting to others was part of that collective well-being. And we'll save that for another time. But that essentially is body kindness, because when you can do that, then you can make the next positive self-care choice, which that's where care comes from, which is the third pillar, which is fully commit to caring for yourself and other people, no matter what. And that first pillar is about making choices from a place of love. And that's great when you're grounded and regulated, and when you think you have some ideas for what you want. But like, essentially, it's like, if you've never heard of intuitive eating, but you want to work with food, intuitive eating can be absolutely great. And also, if you've done intuitive eating, body kindness could be great. And doing body kindness can be great if you are, going to do intuitive eating can be a whole different experience if you do body kindness first. And it's very different, right? But it's just like, one of the common things that I see people say is, well, if I'm not dieting, which is so much seems to be about food, right? Then like intuitive eating this is the thing that you can do. And absolutely, when it comes to food, intuitive eating is great and amazing. But dieting is also about exercise. It's about other ways of depriving yourself or purging calories with exercise. And so, how do you make choices around movement, sleep, fun, and joy, and just things that are outside of your body and yourself? So, when you are thinking about, well, what does it even mean to be good to myself? What is a body kindness practice? The oversimplification is that you have everything you need to be good to yourself and to live a meaningful, a happier, and a healthier life. And whatever it is that you care about health, in order to really get there, you really do need to table weight loss. And it doesn't mean that you're not having the thought. Your people will have a part that's like, we got to do this first. But how do you relate to that part as your inner caregiver? And with compassion and kindness, connect to yourself, make a choice from a place of love, no matter what the circumstances are in that present moment. And self-care evolves from all of that.
Yeah, what I love about the fact that we're actually videoing now is I don't have to tell our listeners that I'm agreeing and just nodding, because I feel so there's nothing wrong with your screen. It's just me really agreeing from a lived experience about what it is that you're sharing, and I just, and again, my experience is that I'm just able to really enjoy life myself so much more, and it allows me to, again, just walk through with a greater sense of self and purpose, and want to do those things that I know in the end are good for me. Whether it's dancing with my daughter in a living room, or enjoying time with loved ones, again, moving my body in a way that just is natural and fun for me, and not thinking that I need to compete all the time in order to get the most out of the movement that I'm choosing to introduce into my life. So yeah, I'm so glad that we are having this opportunity to actually talk face to face, especially with our listeners. And I hope that you'll continue to tune in and follow us. And we got some great interviews that we've done. And as a matter of fact, there's always ways to connect with us. So, Rebecca, if you want, you can tell them a little bit about that. And
yeah, sure. Well, if you are, thinking that you really could use some support with body kindness, it just so happens that I am planning to have a group in the new year. And so this is going to be a virtual group. You can check it out at bodykindnessbook.com/offers. And I'll have the link for that in the show notes as well. And that is going to be a pretty rare chance to work with me in a group setting. I do private counseling, and I can work with people virtually private if that's something that you would prefer to do. But this live group is going to be on Saturdays at 10:30 Eastern. So if you're Pacific, get up, get your coffee going. And we start on January 9th. And there's going to be email support, Facebook group support if you would like it, resources. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff, some guided self-reflections, meditations. We're going to be practicing stuff in a group, and then there's going to be some prompts and things to do between groups. And so it is going to last actually for 12 weeks. So there's 6 live calls that are every other week, because I want to give you a couple of weeks to work on something, and then we're going to build from there. But on that off week from the live call, we're just off from the new material. We're going to be in the Facebook group. We're going to be working on the resources and everything like that. And Bernie, I know I mentioned to you, I really hope we can figure out if you're able to join for some or all of that, just to get all that goodness in. That would be really cool. And so those are, some of the early ways that you can get involved. If you happen to be listening and have diabetes or a diabetes concern, there is a diabetes focused specific 3-month program where you can learn on your own time and join in on live calls. But I definitely recommend that for people who are listening, or who know someone who have a diabetes or pre-diabetes diagnosis or a family history concern, and really would like to think about, well, how do I, approach body kindness if I have, some specific health concerns where everybody's telling me you got to lose weight or else. So I would love to have you there. There is going to be more to come in 2021. The book, like I said, you can get that anywhere books are sold. There's reflection prompts. And so that might be a great place. There's a free kind of get started from my website. And if you go to bodykindnessbook.com/start, give your name and email, and you'll always get, the latest and greatest for how you can go a little bit deeper. And I really have to encourage, the benefit of participating live with me or live in a group is really, really strong. And you can, if you're new to the book and the philosophy, you could still join us. I'm not going to be like reading the book to you in our live groups, and I'm not going to be expecting that you know how to do everything. There's going to be a lot of responsive sharing time and prompts, so that the people who are in the group can get out of it what they want and need. And so I hope to see you there. And we should also probably mention that we like to have people ask questions for the show. So that's bodykindnessbook.com/question. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes, because that can just be super easy to do that. And we are always wanting to bring on guests that you want to hear from, or answer questions that you might have. And if you want to support our show, which would be awesome, that helps to defray the production cost. We have a GoFundMe, and I'll make sure I put the link to that in the show notes as well.
No, perfect. I'm excited. I agree that when you're able to connect with the community, it's just so much more helpful. It helps me to realize that I'm not alone out there, no matter where you are. But just tuning in is the first step. So really excited about that. And Rebecca, I don't know if this is going to happen, so I'm kind of putting it out there. I know that there's like Facebook Live type stuff, so I'm hoping that like sometime in this new year, we kind of keep moving forward in connecting with our listeners and now our viewers, because we get to answer questions in real time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to. We'll set it up.
Yes. But again, guys, we're so excited that you're here with us, and we look forward to being a part of your journey to being a lot kinder to yourself first, and to living just a life of wonderful acceptance. So I know it sounds really huggy, guys, but I'm telling you, I'm 5 years in, and I never would have thought that I'd be putting it this way, but it's been a life changer for me. So
I'm so grateful for you, B. All right. Let me see. Stop recording.